Welcome to a deep dive. We know you're here to get that edge, to really master communication quickly and thoroughly. Today, we're tackling a stack of material aimed squarely at that goal. We're going beyond just, giving a presentation. We're looking at how to engineer a message that truly lands, something that sticks and actually gets people to do something.
That's absolutely the mission today.
Yeah.
The source material we've got lays out this really robust framework. It's all about blending your internal intention with your external action.
Okay.
And to really get there, to reach mastery, we have to get a handle on three core elements. There's character, that's the human side of things. Then construction, the logical build. And finally, consistency, how you deliver it, visuals and all.
Right, and there's this one big idea, this kind of foundational principle we need to grab onto right away. It flips an old saying on its head. The sources insist the medium is not the message.
Exactly. That's the non-negotiable takeaway here. The message is the message, full stop. If you catch yourself getting lost in, flashy graphics or super complex transitions,
Yeah, all the bells and whistles.
or the latest tech, you're heading towards what the sources actually call multimania.
Multimania. Okay, what is that? Like just too much going on, sensory overload.
Precisely, yeah. It's when all that sensory clutter, the visuals, the medium starts competing with your core message. And honestly, it usually wins. It defeats the message.
So you drown out the point.
You do. So we need to strip that complexity back, focus on clarity, and to make sure we achieve that clarity, the material suggests we start. Well, not at the beginning.
Okay.
We start at the very end.
Right. Let's unpack that. That's the strategic foundation, the construction piece.
Yeah.
Why start with the conclusion? The zing, as they call it. It feels completely backwards.
It does feel counterintuitive, yeah. But think about it. If you don't know exactly where you're going, how can you possibly map the route?
Good point.
The zigzagging is that final measurable thing you want to achieve. So you design your very last visual, your final words, first. That sets the benchmark. Everything else has to measure up to that ending.
So for every single slide, every story, every piece of data, the question is simple. Does this directly help me get to that theoreticizing?
Exactly. If the answer is no, it's just noise. It needs to go. And that final zing, it has to push for a measurable call to action.
Okay, measurable, what does that look like?
It means you have to define actively what you want your audience to think, feel, and crucially behave when you're done speaking. And tied to that, the presenter's own objective needs to be active too, not just, I'm here to talk about the product. No, it's, I want to sell this product, or I want to inform them about this critical change. Active verbs.
Give me an example. How do those link up? Say the call to action is get them to sign the contract right after the meeting.
Okay, if that's the audience action, sign the contract today, then your objective as the presenter can't be passive, like to inform. It has to be something driving that action. Maybe to create an immediate sense of need that only this contract solves.
Okay. That active objective then shapes everything you build.
Everything. Your entire structure flows from it.
And speaking of structure, this leads us to that systematic approach, the organizational tool the sources use, that theater metaphor, the 2x2 table. Now, for listeners maybe not familiar with that term, what does 2x2 actually mean? And how does it help organize the logic?
Well, the exact origin of the name 2x2 isn't the main thing. What's important is the process. It forces you to map your intention to your action at 3 different levels, like writing a play script, basically. You have to define things twice, in a way, ensuring that link between intent and action is solid from the big picture down to the tiny details. It aligns 3 levels of objectives.
Okay, 3 levels, starting broad with a super objective.
Right. That's the whole play, the overarching theme. The big question is to do what? What's the fundamental goal? Like maybe to persuade the leadership team.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Yeah.
The current objective, that's like the act in the play.
Exactly. This level asks, by what means? How are you going to achieve that super objective? So if the goal is to persuade, the current objective might be to persuade by identifying the major flaw in their current process.
Got it. And then the finest detail, the specific objective, the scene level.
Yep. This nails down the process. Through what particular process will you achieve that current objective? So you're identifying the flaw, maybe through a detailed cost breakdown on slide 9. The key thing, the power of this 2x method, is that every scene must support the act, and every act must support the overall play. It forces alignment, cuts out the fluff.
That focus on alignment really bridges us nicely from what we're saying in the construction to who we're saying it to. The audience character, we need to understand who's listening before we finalize the logic. The sources break them down into two main types of learners.
That's right. You've got the student learner and the professional learner. The student learner is usually there because they have to be. Think mandatory corporate training. They're often using the information short term.
Right, check the box learning.
Kind of. Whereas the professional learner wants to be there, they're in a desired learning mode. They see
Yeah.
the knowledge as valuable, something that builds on what they already know, like attending a conference in their field.
Okay, that distinction makes sense. But here's where the sources throw a curveball, I think. When talking to any group more than one person, they say appeal to similarity, not diversity. That feels really counterintuitive today.
It does, doesn't it? But think about it mathematically. You simply can't tailor a single message to meet every single diverse need in a room full of people. It's impossible.
So you aim for the common ground.
You have to find the universal human elements. And the sources pinpoint two fundamental things that connect us all, regardless of background: friction and family.
Friction, meaning conflict.
Okay.
And the advice is to basically assume the audience comes in with the default level of skepticism.
Assume a yes, but attitude is already there. We're actually drawn to friction, to conflict. It's what drives change, drives story, drives action. So if you anticipate that inner conflict, that natural skepticism, you can build your message to address it head on instead of getting blindsided by resistance later.
And the type of conflict present actually dictates the kind of strategic family relationship the presenter needs to adopt. This framework seems really powerful.
It is. It models professional dynamics on basic human relationships. So for inner conflict, person versus self, doubt, uncertainty, the presenter needs a parental relationship.
Parental,
Meaning you're the expert, the guide, but like a parent with a teenager sometimes, you need to expect a bit of pushback, maybe some argumentativeness from the audience, the novice.
I can definitely think at times I've tried to force a collaboration, like a partnership, when really the other person was struggling with internal doubt. A parental approach might have worked better.
Exactly why this is useful. Then there's local conflict. This is competition, person versus person, choosing between option A and option B. This calls for a fraternal relationship.
Like siblings or colleagues.
Peers, equals, yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to approach it with respect for the competition, look for compromise, you're on a more level playing field.
Okay. And the third one, the marital relationship.
That's for the big stuff. Global conflict, rallying against a common enemy or a shared threat. Think us against the world. But the key test here for a true marital partnership is genuine collaboration. If you took money off the table, is each side really bringing 50% of the effort, the ideas, the guidance? If not, it's probably not a real marital dynamic in this context.
So the strategy is, inner conflict needs parental guidance, local conflict needs fraternal compromise, and global conflict warrants a marital partnership.
Wow. Okay, so only after figuring out that internal dynamic, the audience character and conflict, can we really effectively design the external stuff, the consistency part, what's on the screen, how we act on stage.
Precisely. Let's start with the visuals. Goal number 1. Simplicity. Remember, we're making visuals to be presented, not read like a document.
And you mentioned a great practical tip for forcing that simplicity earlier.
Oh yeah, the paper folding trick. Just take a standard sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, fold it in half. That smaller space physically stops you from cramming too much text on there.
Forces brevity. It does. It pushes you towards short, key phrases. Often using parallel structure helps, like bullet points, starting with identify, understand, learn. And definitely no ending punctuation on those points. Keep it clean.
Simple, clean, and readable from the back row. There's a specific rule for text size versus distance, right?
Yes, the 8-to-1 rule, super useful. Your maximum viewing distance for, say, standard small text, maybe 24 points, should be no more than 8 times the height of the projected image.
So quick math. If the screen is, say, 4 feet tall,
Then anyone sitting further back than 32 feet, 8 times 4, is going to struggle to read that 24-point text comfortably. Bigger room. You need bigger text. Simple as that.
very practical. Okay, beyond size and simplicity, how do we guide where people look? Controlling eye movement?
Right. Shapes are your friends here. Geometric shapes are actually easier for our eyes to lock onto and process than big blocks of text. And think about typeface strategically. Use a serif font like Times New Roman for headings. Those little feet on the letters actually slow the eye down slightly, signaling importance. Then for the body text, use a sans serif font like Arial or Calibri. No feet. That speeds the eye up, making it easier to scan quickly.
Serif for importance, sans serif for scanning.
Got it.
Now, color. The sources say background color isn't just decoration, it actually influences audience emotion.
It absolutely does. Your safest bet For credibility and general readability, especially with yellow or white text, is dark blue or indigo. Classic professional.
Okay.
If you need to dial up the energy, the passion maybe for a sales pitch, think maroon or burgundy, those dark reds. And if it's training or education where you want to encourage interaction and brainstorming, green or teal can help stimulate that.
Interesting. And there's a rule for arranging data, too. The darker to lighter rule.
Yeah, this is a neat detail for things like charts or lists. Arrange the elements from darker to lighter, either bottom to top or left to right. It mimics how we naturally see the world, like the darker earth giving way to the lighter sky, makes the data feel more intuitive, easier for the brain to scan quickly.
Okay, we've hit character, construction, and visual consistency. Let's shift to the presenter themselves.
Yeah.
The physical delivery, the mechanics. How do we manage our space on stage?
This involves understanding your presenter's triangle. It's basically your defined workspace, usually marked by the screen or display on one side and the edges of the audience on the others. The key insight isn't just the shape, but using the points within it, maybe near the screen, center stage, and slightly audience right as predictable stopping points. You move deliberately between these spots. No aimless wandering.
Purposeful movement. And our body angle matters, too. We start in the rest position.
Which is typically having your shoulders angled about 45 degrees towards the far opposite corner of the room. It keeps you looking open, engaged, not closed off.
And for emphasis.
You shift to the power position. That means squaring your shoulders directly to the back wall of the room. It's a stronger stance. It commands attention, signals you're making a key point.
Now, how do we avoid distracting the audience with awkward movements? Not upstaging ourselves, as the material puts it. There are two specific rules mentioned.
Yes, critical for clean delivery. First is the rule of the right shoulder. Basically, the front of your right shoulder must always be visible to the person sitting furthest to your right in the audience.
Why? What does that prevent?
It stops you from turning your back completely on a section of the room. Keeps you connected. The second is the rule of the left foot. It sounds a bit odd, but it works. Use your left hand to gesture towards anything that's physically to the left of your left foot. Use your right hand for anything to the right of your left foot.
And the logic there is?
It stops you from making big, awkward gestures across your body's midline. Crossing the midline tends to look clumsy and pulls focus away from your message. These rules keep gestures smooth and natural.
Okay, moving from the physical mechanics to the emotional connection. Storytelling. The sources say it's the key link between dry data and real feeling. But just telling a story isn't enough.
Not enough at all. You have to establish time, place, and condition with real specificity. If you just say, oh, I was in this chaotic meeting once, everyone in the audience drifts off, picturing their own chaotic meeting.
You lose them.
You lose them. But if you say, it was March 15th, 2018, we were crammed into conference room B, the one with no windows, and the AC was broken, it had to be 95 degrees in there. Now everyone shares your specific, vivid image. They stay with you.
Specificity anchors the audience. Got it. And finally, in delivery skills, the strategic use of humor. That great analogy. Stretching the rubber band.
Right. Humor is the counterbalance to a serious message. When you deliver the punchline and get that laugh, that's the moment the rubber band is stretched tightest, the audience is open, maybe slightly off guard.
Memorable, in a good way.
Exactly. And you have this brief window, maybe 30 seconds right after that peak humor, to deliver a really crucial, serious point. Because they're in that open state, that serious message is much more likely to bypass their critical filters and go straight into long-term memory. It's calculated, not just comic relief.
Wow, that's using humor as a tool, not just entertainment. Okay, before we wrap the main presentation skills, let's quickly touch on informal settings.
Yeah.
Like a small meeting, one-on-one. Positioning still matters.
Absolutely. Even just deciding where people sit, the power seats in a small meeting are usually the ones diagonally opposite the presenter or leader.
Why diagonal?
There's a tendency for people in those seats to subconsciously mirror the leader's actions and feel a sense of implied status. So if you're trying to persuade someone, ideally you want your key decision maker in that diagonal power seat.
Interesting psychological detail. And without slides, how do we gauge someone's thinking?
Watch their eyes. It's not foolproof, but eye direction can offer clues about their mental timeline. If you ask about something in the past, needing reflection, people often glance up and to their left. If they look up and to their right, it often signals thinking about the future, anticipating, planning, strategizing how to apply what you're saying. That up and right glance can sometimes be a good cue that they're moving towards acceptance or a decision. A better time to maybe push for the close.
Fascinating. And one last tip for those informal chats,
Mm-hmm.
avoid the head-on collision.
Yeah, in a one-to-one, try not to sit with your shoulders perfectly parallel to the other person like you're squaring off. Angle your chair just slightly. It subtly breaks that potentially adversarial setup. It gives both of you a slightly wider perspective, literally, and helps you, as the presenter or leader, maintain a bit more control over the conversational flow. Less confrontational.
Right. This has been incredibly thorough. We've journeyed all the way from the core internal goal, the super objective, right down to seating arrangements and hand gestures. Character construction, consistency, making sure the message itself shines through.
That really is the essence of it. Mastery comes from that relentless focus on clarity over clutter. It's about rigorously aligning your intention with every action, understanding and addressing the audience's inherent conflict, and then using visual and physical forms consistently to support, not distract from, your core message, your engineering and experience, not just delivering information.
So let's circle back to that character section for our final thought. We talked about those three relationship archetypes: parental, fraternal, and marital. The provocative question from the source material is, which one of these business relationships is actually forecast to last the longest, and why?
It's a great question to ponder. The answer, according to the sources, is the parental relationship.
Parental. Really?
Yep.
Why that one?
Because the strength of that bond is rooted in something like loyalty, almost like a bloodline in the analogy. Organizations that possess truly unique, hard-to-replicate expertise and successfully position themselves as the essential guide, the expert can build these deep parental-style relationships. They potentially create customers for life based on that enduring expertise and guidance.
Which definitely leaves us, and you listening, with something to think about. Take a hard look at your most important, long-lasting professional relationships. Are they truly parental, built on your unique value and their reliance on your guidance? Or perhaps, are you burning energy trying to maintain a high-effort marital partnership where the 50-50 contribution isn't really there? How does understanding that dynamic potentially shift your strategy for long-term success?